I'm excited to cover this topic today. How do I know if I should be a consultant? I have talked a lot about how consulting has been the best career decision I have ever made. It has given me total control over my career, my earnings, how I spend my time, my free time, being with my family, and also pursuing other passions. I know I've talked about the many things that I do, and consulting is really the only thing that allowed me the opportunity and the freedom to do that. If you are struggling with a fork in the road, deciding if you should stick with your job, with your career or not, then you are probably wondering if you should go into consulting. And I'm going to start by saying this really important disclaimer. Consulting is not for everyone. Just like working in a job that's isolating isn't for some people, or a job that puts you up on a stage day after day is not for others, consulting is not for everyone. So as you are debating whether consulting is right for you, I hope some of this advice is helpful. The first thing I want to talk about is your expertise. Is one of the first things you need to think about in order to decide if you are ready for consulting. Consulting demands that you have a true expertise in a particular subject or area. And that is the first thing you really want to think about. Do you have an expertise that you can tap into? Generally speaking, when people are talking about that particular topic, do they see you as an expert in that area? And by that, I don't necessarily mean the number of years that you've invested in that career or in that topic, although that certainly is helpful. But if you're at the forefront of e-commerce or social media, or have an advanced degree in chemical engineering, or whatever that specialty that is that you have, you may not need a ton of experience. And so experience is not the issue. In most cases, what you do need is expertise. And experience helps. It helps if you have a number of years to bring to the table. It helps a lot, if I'm honest with you. But expertise is really what we're looking for. And is that expertise of value to others? Are there people in the world that need this information and would be willing to pay for that? And so when I talk about things like e-commerce or social media, these are topics, at least in the universe I operate in the broader marketing landscape, that are hot topics. And any expertise in that is absolutely needed and wanted by a variety of potential clients. So spend some time thinking about what is that expertise that you would bring to the table that would allow you to create a successful consulting business. So that would be the first thing to think about as you wonder whether or not you are ready to start a consultancy. The second piece is how you like to work. Being a consultant, especially if you expect to be a solopreneur indefinitely, and solopreneur means it's entrepreneur who is a company of one, as I am, and as I have decided to be a solopreneur indefinitely, that can be a lonely path. It can be lonely not to have a team around you and a group of people that are sharing in the workload and in the day-to-day. People you can say, oh gosh, that client was so tough, or I really just don't feel like doing anything. It's 3:00. Let's go for a coffee break. It can be lonely to do that. So understanding if you need that team around you is really important to know upfront, either to be a consultant or even to decide to want to go and build a team. The second piece of that is your resourcefulness. Are you resourceful enough and willing and interested in going out to find the answers on your own? That's a lot about your work style and what you're willing and not willing to do. Being part of a corporation provides you a ton of resources that you will not have when you are working as a consultant, and certainly not when you are working alone. And so delegating and outsourcing are a really important part of consultant, but it's still just you making the choices about what you are or are not willing to do yourself versus outsourcing. And particularly in the beginning, outsourcing is often not an option for you because you are just building your client roster and you may not have the resources yet to invest in hiring someone else. So understanding if your work style really depends on you having a team is important. The next thing related to your work style is if you're comfortable with ambiguity and change. For me personally, one of the things I love the most about this work is that every single hour I'm talking about something different. Every single hour, I'm talking about a different product category or a different consumer. As I've mentioned before, I work in the consumer packaged goods space, which means I deal with the kinds of products that you find in supermarkets or on Amazon. And so I might be talking about diapers in one moment, and then the next moment talking about hair care, and then the next moment talking about popcorn. And that all can happen over the span of 3 hours, right? And I love that about my work. I might be talking about moms and what's important to moms, and another time talking about teens and what they look for in the kind of beauty products that they buy. Can you handle that? Are you willing to use your brain like a ping pong table? It's constantly jumping from topic to topic. Some people prefer to stick to a topic or a project for an extended period of time. You might want to just work on this one project and really work on it for 6 months, for a year, until you've gotten to the end before moving on to something else. And don't get me wrong, you might build a consultancy where you do just that, where you are taking on one project or one idea or one topic and nothing more. But for most of us as consultant, that's not really how it works. We're really jumping from client to client, from thing to thing, and keeping our brains on our toes. Again, like I said, I love that about the work that I do. And for as much as you're trying to build a pipeline of work, it's always looming that you might lose work. I mean, I've never been out of work, luckily, in almost 10 years, but I still have a healthy fear of that. I'm still concerned about whether or not tomorrow I'll lose my clients, or maybe in next quarter, no clients are going to come in. It's a lot of what drives me and keeps me connected to my community to keep my name out there. But that's the next big thing on for you to consider as you're thinking about whether or not you should be a consultant, is that, are you looking for total control over where your work is coming from, and having that sense of security that the kind of projects you're going to be working on in the next month, in the next 3 months, that that the work is going to be there. You don't need to worry about having to find the work or build the work. And so understanding that about yourself and your willingness to live in ambiguity is an important part of being ready to be a consultant. The next thing is, speaking of control, are you okay making all of the choices yourself? Do you want to decide what projects you work on? Do you want to set your hours exactly how you wish? Do you want more time with your family and kids, and make all of those choices without any requirement from anyone? And in this way, it's a super positive one, but it also requires a lot of you, that you're thinking about how your day is built and how you're going to do your work over the course of a month or even a year. And having that control over your time is something that you want to think about, whether that's what you're looking for and whether consulting can give that for you. The next thing I would offer you is that you are going to be making every single decision, which for many of us is a huge plus for being a consultant. As a consultant, as a solopreneur, you have to decide who you work with, who you don't work with, the kinds of clients you're willing to take on, the kind of work that you want to do. But perhaps on the flip side of that, you're also responsible for everything. You got to pay every bill. You have to process every invoice. You've got to think about hiring and firing. You have to lead marketing and everything else. You've got to buy all the pens and take care of all your IT problems all at once. And so that there's really a lot of ownership on you to lead the day to day. And that's a change from what we do. Honestly, in corporate environments, we're often just following the corporation's lead, and they sort of help us dictate what work we're doing, what we're not doing, whether it's because we have top to bottom objectives and goals, or as a team we're working on projects and identifying them together. There are other people that are carrying a lot of that weight for you, and so you've got to be interested and willing to want to do all of that work on your own. And then I think the last thing I'll talk about here, about whether or not you're ready to be a consultant or start thinking about being a consultant, is that you've got to put yourself out there. And you might not think that's necessary for being a consultant, but it's critical, right? It's really important for you to be putting yourself out there in order for the world to see you, recognize you, remember you, and bring those projects to your table. So you need to be willing to put yourself out there in that way. And it's okay to feel uncomfortable about the idea of putting yourself out there. And trust me, I have those feelings too, even almost 10 years in, but I find my way through them. And if you think you're able to at least push yourself through those tough parts of what feels uncomfortable of putting yourself out there, then that's good enough. That's a good enough start to get you to the other side. Referrals follow great work. And so if you can do mostly great work that lead to referrals and a little bit of selling, the business will come. And that's probably the last big thing that I would say about just considering whether or not consulting is right for you. You know, the flip side of all of these things I've been talking about today is that there are a number of other drivers that are just calling you to consulting. Things like, this work that you're doing today is just not right for you. You want to have that control and the experience of being out there on your own. You want to create a business that is built on your expertise. You want more control over what success looks like for you that's not defined by a corporation or defined by others. Then consulting is likely the right path for you and something you want to start thinking more and more seriously about. And if you want to find out more if consulting is right for you, you might look at a quiz that we created at theclaritywizard.com/quiz. And that might help you think a little bit more about some of the specifics that are required for you to start as a consultant and give you a little direction about whether or not it's the right decision for you. And if you do decide that consulting might be right for you, you want to check out a course that I created called the Consultant Launch Course. It's got all of the steps that you need to take in order to get your consulting company up and running. It covers everything from setting intentions, creating a corporation, pitching, pricing, keeping your clients happy, goal setting, and a whole lot more. It also comes with a workbook with exercises and checklists in order to make sure that you're set up for success and you follow through on all of your goals. So I've covered a number of things today, and hopefully they were helpful to you. If I can answer any other questions, I'm always here, and you know how to get in touch with me. And I hope this was helpful today. Thanks for listening.